Hey y'all, it's Amanda. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to talk about some fall book recommendations. Alright y'all, so welcome back to another video. I'm so excited to be filming this. I love fall book recommendation videos. I did one last year. I will link it down below. Hopefully there's no overlap on these books, but if there are, forgive me. All the books and everything will be linked down below as usual in the description. So if I have any reviews or anything like that, those will be linked. If there's any links for Baker Book House, if they're Christian fiction, those will be linked as well. Go ahead and just dive right in because this is going to be a pretty short video, not a whole lot to say. I may not read synopsis or anything. I don't even have my reviews in front of me. This is going to be like on the fly. What do I remember? All that good stuff, and may not talk about everything in detail, but again, reviews are going to be linked down below for you to check out if it sounds interesting to you. First and foremost on the list, we have to talk about some suspense, right? Because that is the best time to be reading suspense, is the fall. And Terry Blackstock, If I Run, it's been a minute since I've talked about this series. This is the first romantic suspense series I've ever read. Back in, 2021? I guess I binge read these in a week, and they are so good. There's 3 books in this series. It is a Christian romantic suspense. We have this girl, Casey, is her name Casey? Yeah. Her DNA is all over the crime scene. One of her best friends is murdered. She's suspected. She doesn't trust the police because of things that's happened to her dad in the past. Look at me remembering, you guys. But, I mean, seriously, this really was a great trilogy. Like, there's this guy Dylan, and he's supposed to be like after her and figuring out like where she at, but realizes soon that things are not what they seem, and a little romance happens. There's some side things happening. Her faith is coming to the forefront, and she isn't really a believer at the beginning, and you really see her faith journey in this. So highly recommend If I Run if you've not read it. I just want to do a good reminder on this one. I know a lot of you all have already read it, but hey, we're here to remind you guys, right? So absolutely love this series. I don't have all 3 books, but I always have the first one just so I can remember to recommend it, okay? And I want to mention also Double Take by Lynette Eason, speaking of romantic suspense, because I really enjoyed this book. It is crazy. It's a wild ride. Speaking of people on the run, really, she's kind of like trying to get away from somebody. She had this situation with her ex-husband or fiance. Was it fiance? I think it was her fiance. Yeah. And he ended up getting murdered in this whole situation, and she was involved with it, of course. And now she's like, is he back? Somebody's after me. She thinks she's seen him, all this stuff. And so the story goes on from there. And we have this guy, Detective James Cross, and he was honorably discharged from the army. And so now he is working with the Lake City Police Department, and he's helping her out. And so I love the romance in this. I absolutely love the suspense. It was wild. I did not see what happened in the ending. It was really good. So highly recommend. We can't go fall recommendations without these books, you guys. Just Don't Fall and Can't Help Falling. We've got Emma St. Clair and Courtney Walsh. These are in the Sweater Weather series. These are the only 2 I've read so far, but I do want to read Savannah Scott's a not-so-fictional fall coming up sometime this fall. I already mentioned that in my fall TBR, but I highly recommend these books. They're so good. You can read them in any order, and they're not overtly fall, especially like Can't Help Falling is not overtly fall. You can read it really anytime, but they do have some nice fall elements. They're set in the same town of, was it Shady Hollow? My memory is gone. It don't say. Harvest Hollow, not Shady Hollow. Where'd I get that? It's probably another series. Harvest Hollow. Okay. This one's a firefighter romance. Okay. Like, what? And I think it's like, was it childhood crush? See, I can't remember. Best friends, older, off limits brother, all that good stuff. Emmy and Owen in this one. And in Just Don't Fall, we have got Logan and Parker. Is that right? Yeah, Parker. Hey, I'm doing pretty good. And of course, in Just Don't Fall, you can tell it's a hockey romance, and in here you can tell he's a firefighter. So I love these. They are just the cutest little rom-coms. They're clean, sweet, all the good things. I love these authors. You can't go wrong reading their books, okay? So highly recommend those. I've got reviews for those. I will link them up down below with more details. Back on suspense real quick. Mind Games by Nancy Mehl. Nancy Mehl is a great suspense author to read any time of the year, but really specifically in the fall. I'm definitely going to try to finish this series. I forgot to mention that in my fall TBR, but I need to read book 3 in this series. And so, yeah, Mind Games is one that's got this girl, Kaylee Quinn, and she is a FBI behavior analyst. And so she does like all this work of making profiles on these suspects, and I really like her methodology not mythology, what? Anyway, I like the way she does it. How about that? Me trying to use big words that I can't do. So anyway, but she has a lot of stuff with her family and her dad and her past and things she's trying to establish in her life for herself. There's this guy that helps her. Her partner is Noah, and there's a serial killer, all that stuff. So she usually has like behavior analysts, people who do like profiles on these suspects, like I said, and they're trying to figure out and help the FBI or help whoever to figure out the case of who's being murdered and things like that. So this has also got a lot of good faith content. Highly recommend. A lot of people say if you like Criminal Minds or things like that, but you want more of like a Christian version of that, I never watched Criminal Minds, but a lot of people say that Dancing Mehl is the way to go. So next we've got The Radiance of the Moon by Ashley Worrell. I want to mention this because it is set in Scotland. It's in the past. We have Ireland, I think it's a Scottish man and an Irish widow, and I love the writing in this. It was good Christian romance. We have good second chances in here. You know, you see how the true love between them both is just beautiful in the 1300s, but he had like this sinful past. He drank all the time, and now he's over all of that. He's come out of that from the Lord, and it's a beautiful way to see how the Lord really transformed his life. And you see that had an abusive marriage, and so when her husband passes away, she has a new chance to start over, and it's just a beautiful Christian romance, historical romance. And so I'm excited to read her next book in her series. I don't know, I think it comes out in October. I actually had forgot she had another one coming out in this series, but I do plan to read that at some point. And so our main girl in here is Kara, and our guy is Hector. And so he is like this protector kind of guy. We absolutely love that, right? So good. I highly recommend that one. Next, I want to talk about The Letter Tree by Rachel Fordham. I've already talked about her in great detail in a recent vlog, but we can't have a fall break video without her, okay? Absolutely love her books. This one definitely, I don't even know when it's set, but it's giving fall. Okay, it's probably not, but you know, it's great. It's like Romeo and Juliet. You've got Mehl type vibes, Family Feud type stuff. Mere words can't end their family's feud, but the Campbell heir and the Bradshaw heiress plan to write the Bradshaw heiress plan to write a future together. So this is set in 1924 in Buffalo, New York. We've got this zoo. They're writing letters back and forth. They don't realize who they're writing to each other, and it's just a really good romance. I love the romance in this one so much. So it's a good, clean historical romance. I highly recommend. Next on the list, I want to talk about a couple biblical fiction books that are some of my favorite books of all time. We've got Iscariot by Tosca Lee. I highly recommend this book. It is the best biblical fiction I've ever read, honestly. It's like right up there with Land of Silence, which is what we're going to talk about next. So both of these authors are phenomenal, Tessa Afshar and Tosca Lee. In Iscariot, we learn, of course, all about Judas Iscariot, and he's the betrayer of Jesus, right? So you really learn about things from his perspective, what it could have been like, and honestly, the whole entire moral of this is that the thing that is different from us and Judas is the blood of Jesus. And we've all been a Judas in our life, but we have the beauty of salvation in Jesus, and he forgives us for our mistakes, and we come to him, we repent of our sins, and he saves us. And so in this, there's so much conviction that hit with me of like, wow, all the times that I have been in the same boat here. Okay, I'll leave my full review down below as always, but it's so good. I highly recommend. I really don't know what to say. It's just, you really see, it's hard to explain. You just need to read it. It's one of those books that just is going to leave an impact on you for the rest of your life. Like, I will never forget this book. When I read it, I cried. I want to say I had a vlog reading it. I can't remember, but it was just a very impactful read. So, but back on Tessa Afshar's Land of Silence, this one is about the woman who had the issue of blood for 12 years, and I loved how Tessa took just those couple of sentences of scripture and turned it into a full-fledged fictional story of how it could have been for her and what her life could have been like, what would her name have been, all of those things. I cried. I definitely had a reading vlog for this one as well. I'll link it if you want to watch that one, but I cried. So many moments of conviction, and just, it was so... Again, it hit me at such a time in my life when I really needed this book. Highly recommend. It's definitely one that you'll never forget. So those are the biblical fiction that I had, and we're all over the place today, but we're back on another suspense, and it is The Lost Boys of Barlow Theater by Jaime Wright. I cannot do this video without having her in here because, again, she is one of the best spooky, like gothic type authors in the Christian community that has great faith elements in here, and she combats the supernatural really well in this one specifically, with the faith content, and I absolutely love that. So in this one, we have, of course, dual timeline. We have Barlow Theater, and in both timelines. In the first timeline, we have Greta Mercy and her eldest brother. He was killed in the beginning of this theater being created, and now it's 1915, and the theater appears to be every bit as deadly. Okay, Greta's younger brother goes missing. They're trying to find him. What's happened? She thinks she saw somebody dying. We don't know. All this crazy stuff's happening in the theater. Then we have decades later, Kit Boyd and her best friend vanishes during this ghost walk in Barlow Theater, and all these old stories come up. You already know there's some guy trying to help her and all these things. So yeah, it was very good. I really enjoyed this one. I think I gave it 5 stars. I don't know. It's one of my favorites of hers that I've read so far. So yeah, highly recommend. Very eerie feeling, but like honestly, it's not too scary. I always know she's a safe bet for me. So, then we have got I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. You can see I've tabbed this up. Read this earlier this year. This was a very impactful read, told from a young boy's perspective. You really see what he went through with his family in Romania in 1989 in the communist regime, and everything that happened in their war and all of this. He is 17-year-old. His name's Christian, and he dreams of becoming a writer. The problem is that Romanians are not free to have anything there. They can't dream. Bananas, you can't have bananas. Like, it was so sad to see all the things that he couldn't do or have. They are being watched. It's a communist country. That's all I can say. So everything that they are doing is being watched, and just to see what he went through in this book was powerful, impactful. Another book you'll never forget. This is a secular historical fiction story. I just can't recommend this book enough. Ruta Sepetys has just such a way of telling you a story that is going to impact you and help you learn a lot about history, because I did not know a lot about Romania in 1989, and I learned so much in this book. So yeah. Now we have got back on the rom-coms. Okay, again, all over the place. Juniper Bean Resorts to Murder. This, obviously, from the cover, you can tell it's a great fall read, but I really enjoyed this one. Our main girl is Juniper, of course, and our guy is Aiden, and I love their dynamic. Like, he helped her before as like a tutor, and many years later, they're meeting back up. There's this, of course, a dead body. Now they got to figure out what's going on. Supposed to meet up with this person who knew some stuff about her family, it sounded like, but then the person's dead, and like, what happened? And so Aiden and Juniper end up like working together to see how was this person tied to her past, all of these things. It's a wild ride. It is so good. It's really like, if you like Pepper Basham and Jamie Jo Wright, it's like a mishmash of them in here. This is not a Christian book, but it is clean and so good. I love Gracie's writing in this as well, so I'm excited to read more of her. Juniper, she's very quirky, and I thought that she was just a really fun character. And I love their little couple name. It was like Judipade, was it? Adiper and Judipade, like what? So it was a good time. It was a good time. All right. What else? I want to mention this. If you like medieval fantasy type books, this is one I read a long time ago. It's called The Crown of Rosemund by Michelle Ashman Bell. She has another one that came out recently, The Reign of Rosemund. I won this in a giveaway on Instagram, so I want to read that at some point, but I would like to reread The Crown of Rosemund first, because I read this when I first started BookTube, or right before I started BookTube, and I remember giving it 5 stars. I would like to see where I land with it now, but this was about this girl set in the 1400s. The king and queen are dead, murdered by one who will stop at nothing to rule. The young princess Rosemund has survived, spirited deep into the forest by her parents' most trusted advisor. So yeah, they go off to this small cottage. Her parents' most trusted advisor takes her away. Kind of reminds you of like The Witcher, how Ciri and everything happens in the castle, if you've ever seen that. I don't really watch it anymore, but I know the story of it, where like they need to get her away and pretend she's a boy or something like that, or like hide her away, and Geralt is like, you know, protecting her and all these different things, like a father figure. And so that's kind of similar to what kind of happens in this a little bit. She's finding refuge in a small cottage, a new life, and she has to play this role for her survival. She meets a young boy, if I remember, Maxwell, a young man from the nearby village. Rose finds him as a friend. Her 16th birthday approaches, and the time has come for Rose to reclaim her birthright in the throne, crown, whatever. So, it was really good. One of those medieval type stories. I can't remember if this had faith content. I think it did. I'm pretty sure it had some faith in this. I'm just not 100%. It's been so long. 2021 is when I read this, I'm pretty sure. So, but it was really good. So it seems like one that's like a good fall read. I would love to reread this at some point. Embers in the London Sky by Sarah Sundin was one that I think it would be really great to read in the fall. Really, any of her books could be read in the fall because of the way she writes the historical romance. I love it. This is set in 1940, and this one had more of depth than any of the books I've read, I think. I really liked Until Leaves Fall in Paris as well. And, what's the other one? What's the other book? Oh yeah, When Twilight Breaks. Any of those could be read in the fall too. But this one had just such an extra layer of depth from, you know, me as a mom. You can see her and her little boy here. He goes missing. And so you see this journey of her trying to find her son. And that right there got me in the feels so many times. So this was a release from this year, and she meets this man who was like a BBC radio correspondent. And so she's like trying to have him help her throughout all of this. So I want to also mention Veiled in Smoke by Jocelyn Green. I read this earlier this year. It was a book club read for Tammy's book club, and we loved it. We all loved it. It's book 1 in the Windy City saga. There's not really much romance in this, very little, but it's more of a historical story about these 2 sisters that are trying to help their father, who is accused of a murder that he did not commit. They don't think he committed. They couldn't see him committing it. He is not mentally well, but they don't see that he'd be the one to do this, but he was blamed. And so he goes into a mental asylum, and you see this journey of these 2 sisters working together and kind of bantering and fighting a little bit too throughout the story of like what's the right thing to do for their father and everything. So it was a really good story. It's centered all around the Great Chicago Fire. Again, I learned a lot about history, didn't know a whole lot about that. So that was another reason I really enjoyed this, because I learned a lot about that fire from a long time ago. So I really want to continue on in this series too. Then we have got Recorder by Kathy McCrum. I think that this book is such a good sci-fi introduction if you're not one that is much into sci-fi, I guess, because I'm not really a sci-fi girly, but I really enjoyed this book. I still haven't continued on in the series. I meant to buddy read that with my friend Lindsay. We just haven't gotten there yet, so I'm kind of holding to wait till I can read it with her. But books 2 and 3, how I'm holding off, I don't know. I need to know. There was so much the way this ended, I need to know. But I am, neither here nor there. So, but yeah, Kathy McCrum, she just has a really great way of writing these characters, these good relationships. And we have our main girl. Oh, well, you don't know her name. You never know her name. They call her Recorder. And Recorder has no family, no friends, and no name. Donated to the consortium before her birth, her sole purpose is to maintain and verify records. And so she was cut off from controlling technology. Something happens where she's not able to do what she usually does, and you start to see her really become more of like this human type of character. But like, we don't know her name. And so I can't wait to find out her name. So yeah, I really like the relationships in this. It's a really good found family type story as well. So, and not a lot of that sci-fi jargon. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like you could read this and be like, it's any other story, honestly. For me anyway. So, Colleen Coble. This is the last thing on the list here. The last author on the list I want to mention. If you've not read the Annie Peterson trilogy, please do. It's so much fun. The first 3 books, actually the only books, we've got Edge of Dusk is book 1. And then, not Fragile Designs, we'll talk about that in a minute. Dark of Night is book 2. And then Break of Day is book 3. I absolutely love this series. It's a great trilogy. The audiobooks are phenomenal. Audiobooks are phenomenal. We have 9-year-old Annie Peterson in the very beginning of the story, and her sister was kidnapped, and they were playing on the dock. Someone come and kidnapped her sister, and so she's never really forgave herself for that night. Still searching for answers because she's not only lost her sister, but her parents and her husband died in a boating accident. And so we see her trying to figure out all of these things and go through all of these emotions. And then Annie is with her 8-year-old daughter, Kylie, and they're in this town of Rock Harbor. And you see this man, her first love, John. He comes back after being away for 9 years. So it's like a second chance romance, but it was done very well. I really liked how they communicated in this. It was good. Family drama in this. What? There's a lot of family tea. And it was like, wait a minute, honey, I need to know. So there was a lot going on. Highly recommend. It's a really great romantic suspense trilogy. One of my favorites of all time, honestly. And then we've got Fragile Designs by Colleen Coble. And I think these will be great for the fall, like I said, just because they are on the edge of your seat, suspense, all those things. And we have got some great crazy action in this book, Fragile Designs. We have a Fabergé egg that's worth a lot of money, okay? Lots of family secrets. What was it? Yeah, her husband, he was mysteriously murdered. And Carly has been struggling to support herself and their son, her infant son. And so she has a career as an antique dealer. I think she lives with her grandmother. There's some drama with her sisters I didn't really care for, but other than that, I still really liked it. There's like a bed and breakfast that they're trying to restore and everything. And so in the process, she uncovers the secret that her husband had kept hidden in an heirloom, which is a Fabergé egg that's worth a lot of money. So the wrong person doesn't need to get it. So people are after this egg. That's pretty much the whole thing. And I learned a lot about Fabergé eggs and the history of that as well. So it was a really good story. I really liked it. The audiobook was good too. That's it for this list. Now, I do have a full Cozy Mystery recommendation video as well. I did not purposefully leave Cozy Mysteries off of this list, but I haven't really got any of them on my shelves. And so I want to leave the video down below that I did for Cozy Mystery book recommendations. If you've not seen that, it was a year ago or so. Still would recommend those today. Any of those are probably good for the fall as well. So yeah, that's pretty much everything for this video. Those are the fall book recommendations that I have. Let me know if you've read any of these down below in the comments. There's plenty more, I'm sure. If you have any good recommendations for others, leave them in the comments so others can see that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye, y'all.